Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from right outside the Palace of Westminster in central London. Coming up on today's show, we'll be examining one of the most contentious issues in the UK right now, the debate over South Asian grooming gangs and the political and societal challenges surrounding it. With Kemi Badenoch and Elon Musk placing renewed attention on past failures to protect vulnerable victims, this topic has sparked heated political clashes, both on and off the internet. Simon Pusey will be joining me to unpack the implications of what's gone down over the past couple of weeks. And I'll be speaking with Mr. Mazi Azu, the convener of the Centre for Leadership and Good Governance UK, about an initiative aimed at addressing the unique challenges and opportunities faced by Nigerians in the diaspora. Then later, I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. But first, in a surprising turn of political events, former Prime Minister Liz Truss has issued a cease and desist letter to current Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, demanding he stop claiming that she crashed the UK economy during her brief tenure in 2022. Lawyers for Truss argue that Starmer's repeated assertions are false and defamatory, potentially contributing to her unexpected loss of the South West Norfolk seat in the last general election. The letter, first reported by The Telegraph, contends that the financial market disturbances following Truss's mini-budget did not constitute an economic crash, as there was no significant decline in GDP or rise in unemployment. Despite the legal warning, Downing Street has indicated that Starmer stands by his comments, suggesting that the sentiment he expressed is shared by millions across the country. Staying with the economy amidst significant turbulence in the UK bond market, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has defended her recent visit to China, arguing it was essential for securing economic benefits, including a £600 million boost for the UK economy. Critics have scrutinised the timing as UK borrowing costs have surged to their highest in 16 years, with gilt yields reaching levels not seen since the late 90s. On Monday, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer stood firmly behind Reeves, praising her leadership in navigating these economic challenges while emphasising the importance of international partnerships for growth.
The Prime Minister may try to blame his inheritance or blame global factors, but why should anyone trust a word he says over the businesses who are saying again and again that his budget means fewer jobs, lower growth and higher borrowing costs?
Mr. Speaker, as she knows, the global economy is experiencing volatility and higher borrowing costs. That is why it was vital that we took the tough and right decisions in the budget to get our finances back in order. We had to deal with the £22 billion black hole that they left. We made difficult cuts, raised taxes to invest in health, public services and housing, vital to stability, vital to growth. And we've got an ironclad commitment to our fiscal rules. And she will welcome, no doubt, the inflation figures from this morning. But contrast that with the party opposite. They weren't brave enough in government to take those difficult decisions. They've opposed all of our measures to stabilise the economy and promote growth. They're back to the magic money tree. She wants all the benefits of the budget, but she can't say how she's going to pay for them. They haven't changed. They're still economic vandals and fantasists. Imagine where we'd be if they were still in charge.
The talk in the city is that she can't meet her fiscal rules and there will need to be an emergency budget. So does the Prime Minister stand by the Chancellor's commitment that there will be only one budget this year?
Prime Minister.
She'll be pleased to know the Chancellor will be in place for many, many years to come. She'll outstrip them. Mr. Speaker, if we all thought the politics was about cheap points, I could criticise their chancellors, but I don't have enough time to go through all of the chancellors that they had. We have one budget, that's what we're committed to, strong fiscal rules, and we'll stick to them, unlike the party opposite.
Now to my next topic. Grooming gangs, known for manipulating and exploiting vulnerable individuals, have been the focus of several high-profile cases in impoverished English towns like Rochdale, Rotherham and Telford. Investigations have highlighted both the scale of abuse and the systemic failures that allowed it to continue for years. While child sexual exploitation is not confined to any one demographic, the high-profile cases involving predominantly South Asian perpetrators have sparked contentious debates about race, religion and immigration. Critics argue that fears of being labelled racist or Islamophobic may have hindered the British authorities' response. Politically, the conversation has heated up, with Kemi Badenoch calling for a national inquiry into what she has labelled the rape gang scandal.
The new year has started with a focus on the decades-long rape gang scandal. Across the country, thousands of girls were tortured and sexually abused at the hands of men who treated them as things to be used and disposed of, destroying many lives forever. The Prime Minister has mentioned previous inquiries. He is right, there has been an inquiry into child sexual abuse, but it wasn't about the rape gang scandal. In its 468 pages, it mentioned Rotherham just once. Is the Prime Minister confident that we know the full extent of rape gang activity?
Mr. Speaker, on the question of a further inquiry, there have been a number of inquiries. Some of them localised, including the Mayor of Manchester's inquiry recently, and of course a national inquiry Professor Jay carried out, took 7 years, had 20 recommendations, none of which actually were implemented by the party opposite when they were in government. Now, this is a really serious issue, and we must focus, obviously, on the victims and survivors. There's no fixed view on the victims and survivors about a further national inquiry. There are mixed views. But there is a view, and I share this view, that what is needed now is action on what we already know.
Later today, he will tell Labour MPs, including in Telford, Rochdale, Bristol, Derby, Aylesbury, Oldham, Bradford, Peterborough, Coventry, Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Ramsgate, to tell all of these people to vote against a national inquiry into the gangs which have systematically gang raped children in their constituencies. This is one of the worst scandals in British history, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry? This is a very, very important issue that does matter to the country. It matters to all our constituents. I want to make sure they can hear what's being said.
She's right to say it's one of the worst scandals. It's terrible. That's why I acted on it. Her recently acquired view that it's a scandal, having spent a lot of time on social media over Christmas, not once in 8 years did she stand here and say what she's just said. Not once in 8 years. They didn't act on the recommendations. They want a national inquiry. We had a national inquiry, the J inquiry, the J report. 20 recommendations. Not a single one implemented. Not a single one implemented.
The debate has drawn the attention of Elon Musk, who has used social media to accuse politicians, particularly Starmer, of failing to adequately address the issue. Musk's comments have stirred further controversy, with critics accusing him of spreading misinformation or politicising an incredibly sensitive matter. Simon, it's quite interesting how quickly the world moves on, because now, of course, if you go online, everyone's really talking about the LA fires and other matters. But a couple of weeks ago, my goodness, there was a huge spat between Elon Musk and Sir Keir Starmer. It got quite ugly, quite dark. Jess Phillips, quite a prominent lawmaker here in the UK, was flooded with death threats. It's all linked back to a grooming gang scandal, which, as a journalist, I think I only heard about a decade ago. Can you just talk to us about where we are with this, how it got just so murky, bearing in mind that there are innocent English children who have suffered at the hands of a failure by government, and also these horrible abusive men?
Yeah, there are lots of strands to this, aren't there? And this has been going on for several decades. and there have been several inquiries into it. The current sort of discussion within Parliament and online is surrounding whether there needs to be yet another inquiry. And half the school of thought is that we've had enough inquiries and we should now be implementing the conclusions that they came to, and the things that they said should be put in place after that. We should be taking action on that now. And the other half is saying, well, no, actually, we should be looking into which authorities, if any, covered this up. And there's a race element to it because some councils at the time...
These are impoverished areas, aren't they?
Yeah,
in England.
Often impoverished.
Seaside towns.
Were accused of not coming forward and saying these are Pakistani men because they didn't want to be labelled as racist. Yeah. So you've got that strand to it. Then you've got the Elon Musk strand, who seems to, since he's joined up from Donald Trump, he seems to be doing what Donald Trump quite likes to do, which is just getting involved in other countries and shaking things up a little bit. So he was tweeting at all hours of the night for many, many days. But
basically asking for the head of Keir Starmer.
saying Keir Starmer should resign, saying Jess Phillips should resign, they should be in prison. Pretty radical things that I don't think many people gave credence to. It's really hard to know why Elon Musk wants to do this. Some people think it's because Twitter user ratings in the UK are plummeting, going down massively, and he wants to increase engagement, he wants to stir things up to get... but no one really knows, a bit like no one really knows why Donald Trump is saying he's going to take Canada. Is he just
Greenland?
And Greenland, and use military force. So no one really knows.
But this was quite serious, though, and for a couple of days it actually rocked Parliament. Statements by Nigel Farage.
Well, he fell out with Nigel Farage, didn't he? He said reform needs a new leader. Reform surging in the polls at the moment. I think it really shows this new era, really, of sort of politics and media, and how easily influenced politics is by someone like Elon Musk, who owns Twitter, owns X, and how that could change in the future. You know, for many, many years, you've had Zuckerberg, who's tried to take a back seat in terms of politics and endorsing people, and Elon Musk has really changed all of that, and it shows just when you have a mouthpiece like X what can be done, because you're right, it kind of forced the hand of the government. Sir Keir was forced to get up and respond to these allegations, which really don't deserve to be read out anywhere, but because they were so prominent and so many people, and you know, the Tory party was starting...
Kemi Badenoch really picked up on that, didn't she?
And she's still saying that there should be another inquiry. She's trying to be on team Elon Musk,
or team popular thought. What is the popular sentiment right now? I know you can't test it on X, but how have the British public been reacting? I don't think many people were happy that Elon Musk thought he could overthrow the British government. It's like, who are you?
Yes, exactly. No, well, it's hard to say, because this scandal, this grooming scandal, has
rape
been going
gang
on
scandal
for many, many years, and there have been many, many reports released. And there hasn't been the amount of coverage that we've seen in the last few days because Elon Musk started tweeting about it. So it just shows how sort of influential he is. And if you have that kind of power, what you can do to politicians across the Atlantic Sea.
Yes, just very briefly, more broadly, Sir Keir Starmer doesn't seem like he's having a great time at the moment.
Well, the economy is under a lot of scrutiny, isn't it? And the budget, and whether the budget is, bond yields, big problem for the government, who can't raise money without huge interest rates.
Came back from China with nothing, Rachel Reeves.
Yeah, exactly. That seemed to be a bit of a snub.
Yeah.
Tiny amounts, you know. I think Rachel Reeves is under quite a lot of pressure now. 6 months in, could you say that's enough time to change an economy which has been buffeted by the likes of Brexit, by the likes of Liz Truss, by lots of different forces? France and Germany's economy is terrible as well. Germany's in a recession.
Yes.
So it's not just us, but there just doesn't seem to be...
You can't keep blaming the Tories, can you?
But, well, the Labour would say
they
did
will.
that for a long time. I'd say that they just seem to lack ideas. There seems to be a lack of creativity. The last Labour government, Tony Blair, was education.
Yes.
It was hope. It was let's try new things. It was big, businesses was thriving and stuff. This time there doesn't seem to be any ideas. There doesn't seem to be any new direction. It's almost like we're waiting for them to do the thing that they were going to do, but we keep waiting and it never keeps happening. And I think, before the election we were thinking, well, they're not telling us exactly what they're going to do now, but they're obviously going to do something. But there doesn't seem to be any no inspirational spark or ideas to get this growth. We heard about growth. Before the election, they seemed to just think that you needed stability, right? You just needed a stable government. Well, we've got a stable government, and the economy is worse than ever.
Yes.
So where's this new idea going to come from? I think that's the problem at the moment, is that investors are clearly worried about the UK. why are they more worried than the likes of Germany, France, whose economies are, if anything, worse than ours? And where, how are we going to change this? How are we going to bring about new impetus, new fresh ideas? That doesn't seem to be coming from the Labour Party at the moment.
Yes, and of course the world is going to change on Monday, because there is a little swearing-in ceremony taking place across the pond. But one good thing, the sun is out.
Yes, it's nice, isn't it? It's quite warm.
It is warm, and it makes you feel warm, and then things just get done. That's just what happens in Britain. But let's see how it goes. We'll be talking about Trump, I'm sure, next week. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Coming up on Channel's Business Global, I'll be speaking with Mr. Mazi Azu, the convener of the Centre for Leadership and Good Governance UK, about an initiative aimed at addressing the unique challenges and opportunities faced by Nigerians in the diaspora. And I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from right outside the Palace of Westminster in central London. In a moment, I'll be catching up with Mr. Mazi Azu. But until then, here's a breakdown of some of the biggest business news stories of the week. The British pound fell to its lowest level in 14 months earlier this week. This significant drop comes on the heels of a sell-off in the global bonds market, exacerbated by rising UK borrowing costs, which have hit their highest point since 2008. The depreciation of the pound has reignited concerns over Britain's financial stability and has put additional pressure on Chancellor Rachel Reeves to address the nation's economic challenges. TikTok has officially denied any plans to sell the company to Elon Musk, putting to rest recent speculations that had surfaced online. The social media platform, owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, clarified that there had been no negotiations or agreements with Musk or any of his companies about a potential acquisition. This statement comes after rumours suggested Musk might be interested in adding TikTok to his portfolio, which already includes X and SpaceX. The speculation has sparked discussions about the implications of such a deal, particularly concerning data privacy, national security, and the future direction of the app. Apple has reaffirmed its commitment to diversity, equity and inclusion initiatives, advising shareholders to reject a proposal aimed at terminating these programs. The proposal put forth by a conservative think tank cites potential legal and financial risks, referencing a 2023 Supreme Court ruling against affirmative action in universities. Apple's board, including CEO Tim Cook, argues that the proposal is unnecessary and intrusive, emphasising the company's compliance with legal standards and opposition to discrimination. And now to my final story. Nigerians in the diaspora are being called upon to help shape the nation's future through a groundbreaking survey tied to President Bola Tinubu's budget of restoration. Convened by Mazi Azu of the UK-based Centre for Leadership and Good Governance, the initiative is set to capture the unique challenges and opportunities faced by Nigerians abroad. Mr. Mazi Azu, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining us in our kind of makeshift studio outside the Palace of Westminster. It looks warm, but it's very cold. I've got to say that so our viewers are not deceived. It is freezing here in the UK. Not so freezing where President Bola Tinubu has been over the past couple of weeks. We just started the year, but the president has been in Abu Dhabi. I saw some State House pictures of him with the president of Rwanda, Mr. Paul Kagame, which is good. It's always nice seeing African leaders together. And then, of course, he was in Accra for the presidential inauguration. Before we get into your survey, what do you think of the fact that the president has gone in, started the year on this diplomatic drive once again?
Thank you very much, Juliana. It's my pleasure being with you again. Obviously, I would say that the president may have started on a good note on his diplomatic global throttling from Africa to the Middle East, and hopefully other places he plans to visit in the next coming weeks. But for me, I think the most important thing for Mr. President now is to sit down and reflect in the last 1 year past.
Well, reflecting takes time. Reflecting
He shouldn't take him much time. He's been in this system. He's been in this structure.
Reflect on what precisely?
He has to reflect on what he has achieved in the last 1 year, global threatening, diplomatically around the world, marketing the Nigerian renewed image or his renewed agenda to the friends of Nigeria without a proper organized and structured diplomatic institutions in most of these countries.
Why would you say the strategy is disorganized? I've seen it. It seems pretty organized to me. He's been very well received on the global stage. In fact, he was treated like a king in Accra a couple of weeks ago.
Well, you see, you can be treated like a royal or treated like a presidential figure based on the fact that that is your office. But the fact is that it is very unprofessional. It's undiplomatic if a country as big and as highly regarded and respected around the world like Nigeria for 1 year plus hasn't got a proper substantial or designated ambassadors to represent the image of the president in any of these countries.
Yes.
Because that is the image of the country and the president in those countries. Even while he is not there or while he's about to visit, normally there should be that respect, reciprocal respect by the countries we have developed diplomacy or diplomatic relationship with. Because, for instance, the British government cannot just suddenly change government and not send an ambassador to Nigeria
we do have, just for the record, we do of course have ambassadors and high commissioners in place. It's just that these haven't been sworn in under the Tinubu administration. There's so much we can go into. Let's talk about the reason why we're sitting in Westminster, which is because, surprise, surprise, I got a message from you and your group a couple of days ago, basically seeking information in a manner of a survey, looking at the budget of restoration and how this can benefit the diaspora. Talk to me about that initiative and what you're seeking to find.
That initiative came as a result of the fact that personally I have been involved in the diasporan community for over 15 years now. I have served as one of the diasporan community leaders in the UK here, and I have served as a leader of the diasporan community across Europe. And also I have a huge, wide network of diasporan communities that I relate with across the UK, across Europe, and across the continental global diasporan community. And one thing we are resonating with is that there is this disconnection in terms of engagement, positive and productive engagement between the diasporans and the Nigerian government over the years. And there is a need.
You don't think it's improving? Because, my goodness, there are many associations, many organizations that bridge the gap.
You see, we need to be organized in order to have a productive result from our engagement. Fragmented engagement does not produce a constructive outcome, and that is the problem we're having with the Nigerian community and our engagement with the Nigerian government. So in the last couple of weeks, I've been working with some couple of people to find a way to engage with our community through surveys, because we have a lot of social media informations which are also fragmented. Those who are passing,
you're talking about the communication that's coming out
of the social media from the diaspora are not coordinated properly, and they don't seem to represent the collective interests of the actual diaspora.
So why does the brunt of that lay at the foot of the presidency?
Well, the fact is that apart from the survey on the budget, we've done a survey on the tax reform. And we got over 350 responses of people around the diaspora communities that responded based on their understanding of the tax reform and how it affects the ordinary Nigerians back home, and how it affects the Nigerians here in the diaspora. And so we also done a survey last week, which came out last week, on the Kame Bodnok issue and the government of Nigeria. And so this is something that we're trying to do in an effective manner. Not just people waking up and just throw messages on social media or throw articles on the media space, but being able to sample the minds and opinion of people and aggregate this opinion and come up with something that you think may be a resonating agenda for the diasporas.
What are you hoping some of these findings are going to lead to? As you said, you feel as if the Nigerian community, not just in the UK but across the diaspora, are fragmented. Lots of people would say no. Of course, we've got NIDCOM led by its chairman, Honourable Abike Dabiri. There's also CANOC, which is the Central Association of Nigerians in the UK. NIDO, who have been in a public spat on Twitter. X, formerly known as Twitter Reason. So there are groups, but of course you're seeking something different. Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, well, what we're trying to find out is how do we pass a message representing the voices of a collective group of diasporans who may have faces, may not have faces, but they're existing members of the Nigerian community, either in the UK or around the world. I belong to a wider group of this collective of Nigerians, and what we want is to get the president to understand that there is need to strengthen the engagement platform between the diasporans and the system or the institution that is being established to manage that communication.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channels Business Global. Goodbye.